You know, we're obsessed with dashboards, right? We track every little metric to understand the health of our business, our finances, our projects. But what about the most critical system of all? The one that's actually running everything? What about you?
I mean, really think about it for a second. You probably have real-time visibility into your company's performance, down to the last decimal point. But you might be flying completely blind when it comes to your own capacity, your own resilience, your own stress levels. So we're going to dive into how you can change that. Look at this. We live and breathe by the numbers on the left, don't we? Revenue, margins, net promoter score, that's the language of success. But then you've got the numbers on the right. Heart rate variability, sleep quality, recovery. These are the KPIs for your own personal operating system. And believe me, they tell a story that's just as critical to your success, but most of us are completely ignoring them.
And that gap, right there, that gap in awareness is what we're calling the leader's blind spot. It's this fundamental disconnect between how meticulously we manage our companies and how, well, poorly we manage ourselves.
So how do we fix this blind spot? Well, the tool is something called biofeedback. It's a pretty simple concept, really. Biological feedback. But here's the game-changing part. Biofeedback shows you how your mind is actually doing based on cold, hard data from your body, not just how you think you're doing. And let me tell you, that difference is everything. Okay, so where do we even start? It turns out there's one key metric that basically unlocks this entire dashboard. You could almost call it the body's secret metric. That single number is heart rate variability, or HRV for short. And I'm telling you, understanding this one concept can fundamentally change how you think about stress, performance, and your own resilience. So what is it exactly? Well, to put it simply, HRV measures the tiny millisecond-level differences in time between each of your heartbeats. Think of it as a direct window into your nervous system, telling you how flexible and adaptable you are at any given moment. Now, here's the part that messes with everyone's head at first. More variability is actually a good thing. A high HRV means your nervous system is resilient, it's responsive. It can switch gears from stress back to recovery with no problem. A low HRV, on the other hand, means you're stuck in on mode. Your heart is beating like a metronome, which signals that your system is rigid and way less adaptable to new challenges. And understanding HRV is so critical because it helps us finally see this really dangerous pattern, a pattern we're calling the invisible stress ratchet. See, in modern leadership, stress isn't like outrunning a tiger and then it's over. It doesn't have a clean ending. Instead, you carry the weight of every tough decision, every project that goes sideways. So after each hit, your body's alarm system doesn't return all the way to zero. Your baseline of what feels normal slowly ratchets up bit by bit over your entire career. And just look at what happens over time. What feels normal in your first year, well, that baseline slowly creeps up. By year 10, your new normal is actually a state of pretty high stress. Fast forward to year 20, and you might find your entire nervous system is just constantly bracing for the next impact, even when you don't consciously feel stressed out. You've just adapted to a much more dangerous baseline. And this is why biofeedback is so incredibly powerful. By tracking a metric like HRV, it takes this slow, invisible process and puts it right there on your dashboard, plain as day. It makes that invisible ratchet finally visible. Okay, so seeing the data is the first step, but here's where it gets really empowering. You are not just a passenger here. You can actually grab the steering wheel and take control of this inner dashboard. We tend to think of the mind controlling the body, right? Mind over matter. But it's really a two-way street. The connection flows in both directions. And what that means is you can use simple, physical actions to directly influence your mental and emotional state. You have way more control than you think. Here's how it works in the real world. That stressful email lands in your inbox, boom, perceived threat. Your body instantly reacts. Maybe your breathing gets short and shallow. But right there, in that moment, you can intervene. You can intentionally slow your breath down. By doing just that, you send a new signal back to your brain. Your nervous system literally follows your body's lead, and it starts to calm down. You've just hacked your own feedback loop. And the best part is, making this whole process visible is easier now than it's ever been. Wearable devices like a Whoop, an Oura Ring, a Garmin, or even an Apple Watch can track all these metrics for you. Honestly, the specific tool you use matters way less than just making the commitment to start paying attention to the data. So let's bring this all home with one last really critical idea. And it's this. Whether you look at the data or not, make no mistake about it.
your body is keeping score. Every single time you push through fatigue or ignore stress and tell yourself you'll deal with it later, you are not getting away with it. You're paying what you could call the denial tax. It's the cost that accumulates every time you pretend you can out-hustle your own biology. Every act of avoidance just becomes another entry on a balance sheet your body is meticulously keeping.
The fatigue, the short temper, the terrible sleep, we tell ourselves these are just the costs of doing business, the price of success. But what if they aren't costs you just pay once and move on from? What if they're actually invoices? Invoices that sooner or later are going to come due. Your body is the most impeccable accountant you will ever meet. It tracks every late night, every stressful meeting, every skipped lunch. The ledger does not lie. And biofeedback, well, that's just how you audit the books before you find yourself completely bankrupt personally and professionally.
So we end right where we started. What decisions would you make differently today, tomorrow, next week, if you could see your own capacity and your own stress levels in real time on a dashboard? The data is already there. Your body is running the reports every single day. The only question is, are you finally ready to look?